Let's dive into that. Like, you've taken some things from your grandfather, EOS, different things, and you developed this team method. And I'd like to dive into that because it's really, I think, really powerful. So let's dig in.
So a couple of years ago, I started getting asked to speak a little bit more. And my brand was just, authenticity, this and that, the other. A lot of people just correlated authenticity with the fact that I curse and don't give a fuck, right? Which is not what it is, right? And so I like to always talk about that real quick first, because being authentic is just being authentic to you, right? It's not being somebody else, right? It's not pretending to be Gary Vee. It's not pretending to be Ed Milet. It's not pretending to be Andy Frisella. Quit fucking pretending to be these other people. Figure out who you are, own that space, and own it unapologetic, right? I do not apologize for who I am, which means a lot of people don't like me, and I'm okay with that. I'm not going out to offend people, right, on purpose or anything like that. But if I happen to, that it's a byproduct. I did a couple of speeches that talked about leading with authenticity, but what I knew was that there was more to it. And I was actually working with my coach, Clay Moffitt, and we were going through this. And I was like, I need to come up with a new thing that implements all these other things that I do. And I was like, he's like, well, what are the most things that you think are the most important in leading and keeping people? And I was like, well, obviously authenticity. I'm like, okay. And he's like, what else? And I was like, empathy. I'm like, I don't think people talk about empathy enough, right? And like understanding where somebody else is coming from. Like, I don't have to agree with them, but do I understand where they're coming from so I can have a conversation? It's like, all right. It's like, what else? I'm like, trust. Like, all this shit leads back to trust. Like, they have to be able to trust you, and you have to trust them. And he's like, okay. He's like, what else? And I'm like, I don't know what else. And he's like, can I make a suggestion? Like, yes. He's like, meaning. And I'm like, ooh. He's like, you want to give meaning to your people? I'm like, yeah, every day. And he's like, you know why else I said meaning? And I'm like, no. And he's like, because it starts with an M. I'm like, well, who gives a fuck if it starts with an M? He's like, and he's like, well, because now we can make it the team method, because you can have trust, empathy, authenticity, and meaning. I'm like, oh my God, this is why I have a coach. Because I, honest to God, like, I wouldn't have thought of it, right? It would have taken me 2 years just to think of that little simple thing and have that acronym. So I took that and I built it into this keynote to teach about how do we implement trust? How do we implement empathy? How do we implement being authentic and teaching people how to be authentic to themselves? And how do we give them meaning so that they don't feel like a number in your business, right? And that they're just showing up and going through the motions and making you money, right? How do we do those things? And that's kind of become my new brand, right? Is trying to teach that, which is leading into the other thing that we're, going to start building.
All right, awesome. So team makes a lot of sense. And I think that's what, when you really, they say you don't really understand something fully until you teach it. And so like putting things in frameworks like this where people can really grasp what it is, because they might see, oh, Eric runs a company with multiple locations, got some other things going on. Like, I want to be there, but like, how do I do that? And so putting something in a framework like the team method makes a lot of sense.
Purpose, and so to be clear, I guess the one thing I missed that I didn't say was that the purpose of the team method is the way that I try to make it catchy, right? In the beginning, though, is how to create a cult-like following inside your company. Now, obviously that sounds extreme, but at the end of the day, like, what are we trying to do? We're trying to create a fucking cult, right? We want people that will never leave, right? That's what a cult is. They don't fucking leave because they drank the Kool-Aid, right? We want them to drink the Kool-Aid and stay.
Love it.